you. So today then we're going to be going through the Professional Pursers Playbook. So essentially these key features that are going to help you as a purser or somebody doing a purser-like role on board, onshore, on board, however you're working. They're going to be key features then that would help you across a variety of our different platforms and how it can enhance your use of Voly, Pinpoint, and a couple of other products on there as well. So with that then, I'm going to get started with our first area, which is mostly probably one that includes purser in the name, but it's our purser role within the Voly platform. So if you're using mainly Voly Operational, is probably the best way you're going to get the best use out of it. But on our Voly Operational platform, of course, if you've set up on the vessel that you've got approvals in place, then for those of you that already use approvals and know how they work, you'll already know that, of course, once a transaction's added over a certain value, it goes up for that approval. With the addition then of the purser role in the setup, you'll then be able to add the purser level approval within that approval flow. So as standard, of course, if you've got your crew, think about your HOD on there, then with the addition of the purser level role, you can add the purser in there then before the captain, and then on for admin approval, of course, if you've got a more robust approval system on there on the system. So what that means then is when we're setting up a new user or a new crew rank, we're going to go along and add in all the information. And you can see here, we've got a little tick box saying, is it the person a purser? And then also here you can see where it indicates where there's a purser on board as well as that crew rank. So that in essence then dictates a new approval flow so that anything can go to the purser for their approval before continuing on, as of course a lot of the time that's the role of the purser to check transactions and information and okay it against the budget before it goes for final sort of sign off from the captain. If you're not familiar with approvals, it's really easy to use. Anytime that once you set it up, so you let us know how you want it to work, the value of sort of what's dictated as okay for that transaction and that user. Once it then goes over that value and it comes up to approval, you can actually set up some notifications. So you're not having to come onto the system all the time to check if something's for your approval. You can come into your settings and then you've got your notifications on there as well. And in here, we've got lots of different notifications regarding approval. So the main one really you're going to wanting to see there is something has been created which requires my approval, and then you just toggle it to yes, and then you're going to get an email then the next time that comes to you for approval, so you know to log on to the system. Then over here in our approvals section, you'll then be able to see anything that's awaiting your approval at the top of your screen. So mine, I pre-warn you before it loads there, mine is quite messy. So I've got a lot of things to be approving on there. But essentially this is how it looks, where you can see transactions awaiting your approval. Then if you're the purser, you can click into it. You can see then who has submitted it. You can see all the attached information, invoice files, all of that information that you might need to know in order to make your decision on whether it's going for through on the approval or it's being rejected and sent back. And then both actions require a comment. So when you click the relevant button, you just input your comment on there. And then you'll have the ability as well to have optional further approval. So if it is under your limit, so you're sort of in this essence, the final approver, you'll still then be able to push it through, potentially then for captain approval. Even though it's not needed by the system, you're sort of sending it on for that further approval. So I'm going to say there, Captain Joe, please review. So then I know it's had that extra check on there. And then when we approve it, it will then push it on in the next stage, which is of course captain. You can set the limits up for different things. So of course you can have a limit in place for invoices, approvals. You can also have it for requests if you're using requests, and any external cash or card payments as well. So if you are a vessel that really wants to check everything, especially things like categories where you know it's really easy for them to be clicked in correctly, you've of course then got the ability to set up approvals to come to the purser as sort of final sign off, just to check everything's been allocated correctly against the budget codes on the account. With the purser role as well, you'll have full visibility over the accounts. So if you're looking at the banking page, for example, you'll be able to see everyone's cards. You'll be able to see all the invoices on there as well. So rather than you being set up as a crew member under a specific department and then only seeing those departmental items, you'll then be granted that full visibility so you can do the full necessary scope of your role on board. But that's it for the purser role on Volley. I'm going to hand over to Joe now, who's going to show us a bit more information then regarding the WordPress platform.
Thanks, Georgia. Yeah, that's a really useful tool for pursers who need to be actively involved there in the approval flow. So please do always feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to do a sort of account review for you. A lot of our clients find that really beneficial. So that's an opportunity for us to sit down with you and listen to how you intend to operate with your onboard processes. In particular, we know how important the approval of invoices and requests is. So we're always happy to do that on a sort of bespoke basis. Hopefully you can all see my screen, and what I'm sharing with you now is our WorkRest platform. So WorkRest was a product that became a Volley Group product about a year ago now, and it has various different products. One of which is hours of rest tracking, and we have showed that in a couple of previous webinars. This is our leave tracker, and that's what I wanted to focus on today. There are a lot of very exciting things going on WorkRest at the moment, things which hopefully we'll be able to talk to you about in our next webinar, which is that 12 features of 2025. So I won't spoil that, but please do join if you are a WorkRest user or what I go through today sounds interesting, because there is more to come. The reason for sharing this today is because I spend a lot of my time on calls with pursers who are using various different ways of tracking leave for crew. Usually it involves a spreadsheet, and very often it has incredibly complex formulas. And what WorkRest can give you is a leave tracker without the need for all of that. So once again, more than happy to do a bespoke run through for how this works for each vessel, but just to give you all the sort of headline information. This is the Gantt chart within WorkRest, and this is where all scheduled leave comes to appear for crew. So you'll notice there are a couple of different colours on there. Purple is your rotational leave, red is paid leave, and green is any other kind of leave. Now, the types of leave have been built based off the feedback from crew over the years that the product has existed. So there are several types, and what that means is that we very rarely find, or I've never actually found up to now, a vessel that hasn't been able to find a type of leave that works for them, basically. So obviously all of your main types of leave are in there, and then we've got some very specific ones. Shoreside training is an example down here. Compassionate leave, again, depending on what you offer on the vessel. Within the Gantt chart, you're able to see the number of days of leave and the type of leave, as you can see. But not only that, the little white T's either side of the block of leave denote the travel days. So in addition to the leave, you can also keep a track of your travel days. It's all grouped by department on here, which is really handy when you're trying to look at rotational partners and seeing when the best time to have leave for a certain crew member is. It really couldn't be simpler for scheduling leave. You've got two ways to do that. The first of which is this schedule leave button at the top here. When you click in there, you can choose your department and crew member. But in honesty, I always think the easiest way is just to find the crew member and then click into the calendar. Just to give you a very brief whistle-stop tour of scheduling leave, you'll notice we have an inbound and an outbound and an inbound tab. These relate to the travel days. So you're able to come in and say that, let's go for the 1st of January. You've got the choice of up to 3 days of travel. And when you go onto the review page, you're able to then specify whether the travel days are crew or if they're a neutral day. Again, that's where that one-on-one onboarding call that we'll always do for WorkRest is really important, because it means we can help you based on what you've got in your contracts on board. You can also keep a track of the number of flights as well, which is really useful, because 9 times in 10, I'd say, when I'm on a call with a purser, they're really struggling at present to keep track of how many flights crew have used. So you can use this to deduct a flight from the crew member's allowance. You're also able to optionally include some flight details, really useful for keeping track if you are, as a purser, scheduling the crew travel, or at least needing to keep a track of exactly when people are going to be leaving the vessel. But like I said, that is optional. Within the main leave page, you can select the type of leave. Let's say that we've got a captain on rotational leave. You just need to enter in the duration. Obviously, the start date is predetermined because I added my travel previously, and then that dictates the start day because there was 1 day of travel in there. You have the option of selecting when it ends and also adding an optional comment within there. Same on the other side there for that inbound travel. Let's say that there's another day there, therefore this travel ends on the 9th of January, and I'd also like to deduct another flight from this crew member, Rupert's allowance. On the review page, it's a quick summary of everything for you before you go ahead and schedule the leave. At this point here with travel, you've got the option to say whether that travel day will accrue or if it's a neutral day. Let's say on our vessel, it's neutral. You'll also notice there is the option to put an approval flow in here. So let's say I am purser, Georgia's captain, I'm scheduling this leave, but actually I'd like Georgia to be emailed saying that this has been proposed. Georgia can then go into the dashboard and approve it. Similarly, you can notify the crew member themselves. I'd like Rupert to know that I'm scheduling this leave for him. And I could also choose to schedule Harry, who could be Rupert's head of department. So it effectively means that within one single screen, I'm notifying the crew member, whoever I'd like to approve it. And also I've got the option to add somebody else. So it really couldn't be simpler. Once I schedule and notify in there, it will appear in the Gantt chart like a block for me, as you can see, just like the rest of the leave in here. So what's the end product though of using this tracker? Because it's not just about the Gantt chart. The spreadsheets that we see day in, day out always have those accrued leave balances, and that's the end goal of using this product. Now, what we can assist you with is entering contract information, and I won't go through that on this webinar, but it's something that we like to do on an individual call with you. So for all these crew members, you enter in just that headline information from the SEA, not everything in detail, things like what kind of leave allowance they have, how many days, etc., when you'd like the calculations to start. Once that's all into the system, it unlocks the accrued leave balances, and I'll show you what that looks like in the summary tab. For the period I'm selecting, here I am just looking at my month of November, let's say. In this period, the summary page gives me all of the information calculated for me. So this is effectively the end of having to use my spreadsheet, which is happy days for every purser I've ever spoken to personally. You'll notice it gives you key information like the number of days on board versus the number of travel days, how many flights have been used in the period, as well as the flight balance at the end of the period I've selected. How many days of leave, and of those leave days, how many were deductible leave days versus non-deductible? Again, some of the types of leave that you are able to select may not be deductible, or they may deduct at a slightly different rate. An example there would be we've got shoreside training, which is half deductible, obviously, so it's a little bit different. How many days leave have been accrued, how many salaried days, and at the very end, you've got that all-important accrued leave balance as of the end of the period I'm looking at. This is the entire aim of using our leave tracker. Obviously, not only that, you can have various individuals having access, so you're not having to either share your spreadsheet in a complex way or just maintain one copy somewhere. A lot more secure in terms of the data as well, obviously, because every account is password protected and you can control who has what access. Ensure that if you need to have head of departments within the platform, they only see their department, purser, captain, etc. can have visibility of all users. So it really is an incredible tool. And like I said, there's an awful lot going to happen in terms of our Voly Crew Solutions team in Guernsey, who obviously are absolute experts in running all matters crew, HR, hiring, payroll, etc. Because WorkRest is going to be the user interface, or is at the moment the user interface after what's happening just in the last few weeks. What that means is that the progress will continue with this platform, and we'll be able to do things excitingly like digitally onboard crew for payroll, which means they can use the platform to provide all of their bank details, etc., ready for the first payroll. And also all of this information that we've just looked through together in terms of leave tracking will then speak automatically to the team in Guernsey and they can run your payroll. So it really is a seamless service when it comes to leave tracking, payroll, etc., with us running the product here, and then obviously the experts in Guernsey for payroll. So if you are interested at all in WorkRest, be it leave or the hours product I also mentioned, please feel free to pop a message in the chat and we'd love to book a call with you. I'm going to hand back over to Georgia to talk about another useful tool for pursers on board.
Perfect. Thank you, Joe. Yeah, absolutely. Especially with the payroll integration that's now happening. It's a really exciting time. And as Joe said at the start there, we're going to talk quite heavily about that in our next webinar as well. So then on to our final feature of today's webinar then. Again, we're back on operation, sorry, not the final feature, it's the second to last feature. Joe's still got another one on there. But we've got as well as our approval system flow, you've also got another feature as part of the Voly sort of package we now have. Of course, with our integration with Pinpoint, we now have our Voly Projects tab here on my operational page. So Projects is a additional sort of products that you can have with Pinpoint and Voly, your expense management side of things, and it sort of brings the two together. So theoretically right now, if I've got a work list going on for the vessel, if I wanted to see and check all the dates and everything around that, I'd be going on to Pinpoint and then invoicing before projects. It would be a case then of having one tab open with Pinpoint, one tab open with Voly, and it would be going onto the invoices pages and then having to essentially copy that information over manually. With the projects integration, we go further than just having to copy the information over. It automatically pulls through absolutely everything we might need to know from a work list on the Pinpoint side of our accounts. So we can see there it's got all of our essential things such as our point list, our different descriptions, who's added them, our different values. Now, as we can see, my table is incredibly busy. So we've also got the ability here as well to show and hide the columns. So if you are just coming and you're wanting to see where things are up to in terms of Pinpoint, you can see it within the Voly account without having to then log on to a separate account onto Pinpoint and having to look through each point to find relevant information. You've also then got the ability on here to invoice straight from the point itself. So let's say then we've had somebody come on board and they've worked on several items that we have here on our work list. We can easily just select the relevant ones that they fixed or repaired, and then we can see here at the bottom it says job selected and add invoice. So when we click that, it then brings up a new pop-up menu, which then allows us to choose whether we want the system to pull through any values from Pinpoint. So rather than us having to, again, have open any invoices, any values, any quotes and things like that from Pinpoint, it will pull it through automatically. So if we have a specific built custom field, then I know that our confirmed quote value is the one we're going to be using. It says then the total value for the selected jobs, and we can change the percentage, the values on there as well. You can see you can skip this process. So actually, if you know that these quotes are, not as relevant as they once were, and you want to do it sort of inputting the values from scratch, you can go ahead and do that. But if we add the invoice then with the value mapping, it's then going to pull through the relevant values to the lines. So the system knows which value was against which line. So we can see here, just my bottom one has that value pulled through. The system's also pulled through for us the jobs. So then on Pinpoint, when we add this invoice, it's then going to send that information back. So then anybody that's then working from the Pinpoint side of the system and they're having a look through and they're trying to see if things have been invoiced or where things are up to, really easy then, you're seeing all that information in one platform rather than having to, like say, have Pinpoint open, have Voly open, scrolling, comparing invoices versus points. It's much more effective system and way of working if you are using both systems on there. With this, then we just fill in our extra information. So the information we've received from the invoice, then save it. Of course, if it needs to go through its approval flow, it will do so. And then once it's all approved, we'll then see it on our invoices tab here. Of course, as usual, you can see the payment status on there, download any payment confirmations from within the invoices themselves. So that side of things works exactly the same as if you'd have manually input the invoice. Apologies, it is taking a moment for mine to load there. If you are manually inputting a new invoice, you can also choose to add the job as you go. So rather than me having to go to the projects page, if I'm mid inputting an invoice and I realize actually this line relates to a point and I know it does, I want to connect the two, then really easily we can then just select as we go. And again, it'll pull through the description, the category and the cost center if it's been selected and input on Pinpoint. And then of course we can input our values and amounts and other information to then save the invoice on there. Also, with the projects integration on this table, it's not just going to show us our points, but it's actually going to allow us to click into them to see then the expenses against the point. So if we click into my point number 6 here, we can then see here any transactions that have been associated to it. So you can associate requests to it, but of course it'll only pull through once they've then been invoiced. You can associate card spend, cash spend, any transactional spend, you'll see then here. The payment status as well, so you can review information on there in one view. And of course you can click into the transactions themselves if you want to see a greater breakdown on there. Linking into this, of course, then comes onto settings and our new transaction detail report builder. I won't go into too much detail on that one today, but it's a really useful one that if you don't have access to just yet, because it is still in beta, you can request it and we can enable that for you. But then again, when we view this report, it's all of those transactions along with any points that may be associated with them as well on there, and the ability to show and hide different columns to get a bespoke report. So it integrates really nicely with the projects, and especially if you are a purser wanting to check out all the different transactional information, this is the best way to do it on the platform with that integration on there. Over to Joe now for the actual last benefit for pursers on the systems there.
Thanks very much, Georgia. Yeah, that's a feature that we've had some really, really positive feedback on is our projects feature. So that's another thing. Please feel free to let us know if you'd like to hear more about that, either via a message in the chat or your account manager at Voly. Anyone would be more than happy to help. Now, as we head, or rather are firmly in the Caribbean charter season, I wanted to talk you through our APA platform because we do find pursers, believe it or not, still using, or rather, we hear horror stories of Excel spreadsheets at 2 a.m., WhatsApp groups, piles of receipts on the final day of charter. And we do find we have pursers and captains alike who still don't realise that there is a way of using a bespoke APA charter management platform within Voly to do all of your charter reporting for you. Now, the eagle-eyed amongst you will notice that there are a couple of key differences compared to when Georgia was sharing her screen. The first is that this is a bright orange platform, and that's deliberate. The cards are the same colour, which means that you and the crew can have separate operational cards to APA, which means you never mix up who is paying for what. So obviously the owning funds are on your operational cards, and it's only the charter guests APA that would be on the orange cards, and there's no way of mixing that up. As well as that, you'll notice in the dashboard here in the top left, we've got our APA balances here, which mean in real time, I'm able to keep a track of how much remains of the APA that we started with. Now, before I go through how this works, how we get there, I'd really like to show you the end product for our APA platform. So I'm going to navigate across the side into our reports tab. And I'm going to run the APA detail report. And when we run that, we run it for a specific charter. So when I run this, I want to show you this, which is the final product. And this is what is going to save a huge amount of headaches for any purser who is not using Voly for their APA management. You'll see right at the bottom, before I go through it, is the magic number, which is the auto-calculated total APA funds to return, total APA funds remaining at any given time. And this is calculating in real time, no matter who's inputting data. If I'm purser and I'm only just looking at this on the final day of charter, all the crew will have, I imagine, perfectly processed everything correctly, which means that I only have to come download this as a PDF and my job is done. But if we go through it a little bit more line by line, you'll notice that at the top, we've got those incoming funds in from the central agent, and it's really easy to process those funds in. And then after that, we've got all of the relevant expenditure. So expenditure with the Voly prepaid cards here, cash expenditure, and then also invoices or wire payments that you've made to settle things. Any bank charges that you want to add as well, you can do, and then the system calculates that final balance, which again means you don't need to do all of this via a spreadsheet. So how do we get there then? Well, let's go over to the banking page, because those of you that are familiar with Voly will know that obviously we have prepaid cards, which means that all we need to do really when we're doing, when we've made a purchase is process the transaction. And what that means is we just attribute that key information to it, which means that then the system can allocate it to report. Now, it's the same process when we do this on the APA platform. But the way that we calculate those APA reports at the bottom is by using the system of cost centers. So let's go into this Voly APA demo card, and I'm going to go in, for example, to an unprocessed transaction there, which I will show you. When I click into process, obviously all of this information has come directly from the merchant, so I don't even need to input the transaction date or this description that's come through. Needless to say, I can edit it if I want it to be a little bit neater on my reports, but the amount as well and the currency will automatically come through. Now, when we process it, this screen will be familiar to you if you're already a Voly client. You just go through and enter all the key information, things like a supplier. You can edit the description here, select the relevant category. Let's say that this was sort of general charter preparation. Now, the key difference with our APA platform is the use of cost centers here, which you'll notice is mandatory, which means that no crew member can hastily process a transaction without saying which charter guest you need to attribute that expenditure to. And this is the same on the mobile app in that you can also select your cost centers on there. We've got a dedicated APA app as well, which means crew can have one operational app for that expenditure or that Voly module, and then a separate APA one too. All you'd need to do is select the relevant charter, and then once I'd inputted all of this information as well, it would then sit on the report for you. Again, auto-calculating those balances, which is really useful if you've got a large crew and various people spending for the APA. It means that I, as purser, only have to come in, hopefully, maybe load the prepaid cards, and then look at that report at the end of the week, for example. Now, because of the use of our cost center system, what that means is you don't need to have separate pots for each APA client's funds. It's not necessary. And what that means is that you can have your money in your set of Voly money accounts. Obviously, the different currencies are visible for you on there. And when that comes in, you can process it again, assigning it to a client account using the cost center system. That means that the APA report therefore knows that that funds have come in for such and such a charter. You spend in cash, you spend with invoices, you settle the invoices again directly from the Voly money accounts, more time saving. You spend using the cards, either physical or on Apple Pay. You pop onto the app and then just process them against that cost center. The end product is that APA detail report for you. Absolutely fantastic way of saving yourself some time and an awful lot of headaches. One last thing that I will show you as well is that we have, in addition to our APA detail report, an APA summary report, and I'll run it for the same charter for you, because what you're able to do here is you're able to run this in, you're able to download this in a PDF format, and I'll just show you what that looks like here. You should just be able to see this on my screen in one moment. There we go. As you can see, this is a slightly shorter version of the APA detail report in that it condenses all of that key information for you. But really usefully, it's also got the final acceptance signature boxes, which means that actually I can do my detail report for the charter guest, but then I can also do a quick summary report, and then captain and the guest can sign this. I can then scan it using my phone, and I could even store it within Voly's repository, which is also there for you to upload your files to, which means I've got it there for a sort of audit trail, basically. So the final thing to say on this is it definitely is not too late if you do have some Christmas charters and you're looking at this thinking, hold on a moment, my spreadsheets are causing me a lot of difficulties. I'd really like to get going on this. It is time for getting that started. So we'd love to get you onboarded for Voly APA and give you, again, a bespoke training session, likely to be my colleague Georgia or Alfie, who would be able to talk you through, don't you, Georgia? You're able to do an initial setup call when those funds arrive to really handhold through that first charter. We know that moving from any existing system or spreadsheets can be a bit of a gap. So we want to make sure that we're there, us in the implementation team. So making sure that we onboard you as efficiently as we can, but making sure we understand your needs and help you as much as we can. Then we've got our dedicated training team. So you're likely to speak to Georgia or Alfie, one of my other colleagues. They'll be able to talk you through how to use this. They'll be able to assist you on that final day of the charter for that first one. Make sure that your APA detail report's looking absolutely perfect, really. So thank you very much for sticking with us throughout that webinar. Hopefully you have found that there is a couple of things you can save some time on by using Voly. That's the aim of our game, really. We'd love that to be the case. I know I've said it 2 or 3 times, but if you do want to have a call about your vessel specifically, particularly thinking about Georgia mentioning the approvals flow, we know it's very boat specific, management, family office specific. We'd love to do this again, but just with one of you basically to be able to talk about your needs. So I don't know whether we've had any questions. It's still not too late. Please feel free to pop any questions in the chat and we'll answer them. Obviously, anything sort of vessel specific, we can pick up on email for you after as well.
Yeah, absolutely. If you are using any of the products that we've shown and you're thinking, actually, I could do with getting more out of them, absolutely get in touch with your account manager. If you're thinking, actually, I want to expand and explore, have a demo specifically on any of the products we've gone through, more than happy to arrange those as well. It looks like we just had one question there. How much is the APA? So for existing Voly operational clients, it's free, so you can get that as part of your Voly package. And also with that, if you do take up the Voly APA, as free as part of your Volley operational package. You'll also get the free use of projects as well. So if you're wanting to try projects and you already use an APA or you want to start using APA, it's a great way to get started, as you get a free site on Pinpoint if you're not using Pinpoint already. You then get the free projects integration as well. So right now, if you're a Volley operational account and you at Charter, it's the perfect time really to get on board with APA and start using some of the other products at no extra cost as well. Of course, if you're not an existing client, for Volley, then of course just get in touch with us. There's going to be some helpful links and things sent out to yourselves, and of course we'll discuss it more on a vessel by vessel basis for that one. Thank you all then so much for joining. It doesn't look like there's any other questions, but if you do have any questions, of course, we have our hello at Volley. You can drop an email to if you want a demo, let us know. And of course, our next webinar is on the 17th of December. It is going to be a round off for the year and all the different products that we have enhanced or created during the year, and sort of a demo to each of those as well. So yeah, we look forward to see you on the next one and hope you enjoyed the content given today.
Thanks very much, everybody. Hopefully see you on that next webinar in around about 3 or 4 weeks' time. Thanks again, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye all.